the pandemic has forever changed how we do job search. And I know especially right now, for those of you that are, either looking for your first job or looking to change roles, you may be thinking, wow, is it even more daunting because now, my interactions with people are more limited, or are there less jobs? And I wanted to put it out there that while the landscape is different, your opportunities have not declined. The ways that you're going to be interacting with people will be different. And probably almost it helps you because you don't necessarily have to leave your house. So it is actually potentially more convenient for you to do a lot of the exploration, connecting with alumni or potential employers. And you may be able to do it at actually in a more comfortable location because you have the excuse of not having to drive to where they are. And you can potentially even talk to people not even geographically close to you. And so, wanted to, again, quell any potential fears in that navigating the job market necessarily is just different. It's not worse, but it is different. And the way that you will then begin to make connections, talk about yourself will be different. So when it comes to navigating the job market and how we're going to approach this today is we're going to talk about the what. So these are the tools and assets that you prepare and use and to go where. And so those are the channels that you have access to. I'll be sharing some of these channels with you. And then for who is for your audience. So this could be recruiters, potential mentors, or potential informational interviewers. And then also to share the why, which is your professional and personal goals. And so when we talked last week about your strengths, and talking about, what it is that you uniquely bring to the table, we want you to be able to weave all of that you've learned into some of the tools of the what that you'll be looking at. And so, again, if you have any questions, feel free to throw it in there. And again, just wanted to also give a lot of shout outs back to the restaurants that you guys are throwing up there. I'm so excited for some of these, so definitely going to check them out myself. So, okay, so let's jump in. Again, if you have questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. I have it up, but Lauren and Monica keep me accountable if I don't see it, okay? So, and also with any of our volunteers, if you want to add anything too with your experiences, I welcome your thoughts as well. So first, we're going to talk about your tools, your what. So your resume and your cover letters. And so for some of you, you may, again, this is always a topic, even for people who have jobs, thinking about your resume and cover letters can feel like, oh, such a not glamorous part of the job search. But having these ready and having them really share your story will make you feel much more confident to do other things when it comes to exploring. And also it'll make you ready if an opportunity should come from any of those connections. So what is the purpose of a resume? I often like to think of a resume and a cover letter to work in tandem to tell your story, which is the movie. So a resume, a cover letter is the trailer. It's something that gets people keyed in. It gives little snippets of your experience, but it's not the full story. And if it's a better movie, it's oftentimes not the whole movie. You have these made for Netflix movies, and the trailer is literally everything that the movie is going to be. But think of the Marvel movie, the trailer gets you excited, gets you pumped, and then you're like, I'm totally going to watch this movie. The resume is like an IMDb. It has the play-by-play, it has specific projects, it has all of your experiences. It's a bit more detailed. And so you don't want to see your cover letter as an extension of your resume, oh, I'm just going to keep writing about what's on my resume. You want to pull out some of your most favorite or your most proud moments and put those into your cover letter to really wrap it up and make it really shine. And just as someone who has done some hiring processes, I oftentimes look at the cover letter. I look at the resume first. So some people think, oh, I only look at the cover, you think the order is cover letter, resume, but you don't want to anticipate that. Sometimes people look at the resume first because they want to get to the meat and bones of it. ooh, if I like your resume, now I'm going to invest more time in your cover letter. So that's the only thing with the difference. Like, you often see the trailer before the movie, but sometimes people are going to look at your resume before they sit down and really get to know you with the cover letter. And so for your resume, some things to think about. You want to really focus on keeping it at one page. Everyone that is here, I know you may have a lot of experiences that maybe you're super proud of, and you're like, oh, but what if it's like 1.5? Keep it to 1. It makes the process so much easier for you. And sometimes some recruiters, maybe they're printing them out and then they lose a page, or, oh, they're now back and front and all these things. Keep it to 1 page. I promise you, if you do your due diligence in the editing process, you can keep it to 1. And also minimize color and keep your font sizes consistent throughout. You want to make sure that your resume passes an eye test. And really what it is that recruiters are looking at resumes so quickly. And so I don't know if you want to put in the chat, how long do you guess a recruiter looks at a resume? Per resume, how much time does a recruiter give to each resume at first glance? Ben says 3 seconds. Any other guesses? 30 seconds, 12. Karina says 5. Janet says 10. Phoebe says 10. So the answer is a recruiter gives each resume at first glance 7 seconds. So, I mean, I think Kamani says 3, like even less, right? Like you're just like, no, I'm good, thanks. So, and the thing is, truly, what do you actually read in 7 seconds? If I just flipped my PowerPoint, 7 seconds, you can't read that much, right? So they're doing this eye test to make sure that it feels and looks, oh, this looks really nice. Let me dig in again. So if it is formatted very strangely, and sometimes I know you may say, oh, I'm going to do a template that's on Microsoft Word, and it looks really interesting. The thing is, interesting is in a recruiter's eye too different. So they can't go as fast. So you want them to look at it and be like, ooh, that looks nice and clean. Let me dig in. And so be sure to think about that as you are doing your resume. Just because your resume is really nice and long doesn't mean that you will get the attention for all of that information. So that's why we want you to keep it short and keep it to 1 page. And then also make sure that it's formatted in a way that meets this eye test of clean, organized information, and then also make sure that your resume is tailored to this job. I, again, will use my experience as hiring people. I have gotten resumes that look very much like it's for another job, and also have gotten that for cover letters where they put a whole nother position. So you want to make sure that your resume is tailored for the position that you're applying for. And also, to be honest, that helps you look that much more attractive to that position. So let me go to the next slide. So make sure to have your full name at the top. I know this sounds very, like, oh, this is very elementary, but we're going back to the basics because I want to make sure that you pass this eye test. So instead of your mailing address, consider using a LinkedIn URL. And also, if you are, if you're thinking you're applying across the country, putting your address makes you feel like you're wedded to a certain location. If you're necessarily like, oh, I'm down to move to Austin, or I could move to Denver, putting your address makes it feel like, oh, like that the relocation may be a problem. And also with right now, remote jobs, like even if you apply to a company in New York, you might be working remotely for a while, right? Like you might not necessarily move for a little bit. So, mailing addresses isn't necessarily necessary. In the past, it used to be because they would mail you an offer letter, potentially start your paycheck there. So you don't need to worry about that now. Just do a LinkedIn, and I'll tell you in a little bit how to create your URL. And also, for students and recent grads, put your UCLA education at the top. I know we have a couple attendees that didn't go to UCLA, but be sure to just put your education at the very top, because then that shows right away your degree, your major, any correlated or related experiences or curriculum. That's always great to put there. And be sure to list your month and your year. If, for some people who are older in their experience and their education is a bit later, you can, remove your month and year, But I think at this point, most of you are in a place where you can put your month and year, and it should be fine. For those of you that are applying now that are still currently students, like our master's students that are in this program, you could actually say anticipated June 2021. So you can get your resume out now, and then they know that your graduation is anticipated. And so in your resume, some people ask about this professional summary or like a profile section at the top. And I would give you two pieces of advice. If you choose to do it, it's because you want to actively utilize your space. If you do not have space for it, it isn't necessary, because if your work experience and your volunteer experience is very related, it's kind of like, duh, like, of course, like everything you're showing in your professional summary is at the bottom, okay? And some people may actually ask, oh, what about an objective? It also is a little bit redundant to say, oh, my objective is to secure a marketing coordinator position. Yes, you're applying for a marketing coordinator, they know this, right? So again, your resume is the real estate, right? And so we want to make sure that it is all used to further your story, and you don't have to do things if you think it's like taking up space rather than putting in your work. So if you decide to do a professional summary, this is helpful if, let's say, you have a lot of experience in one industry, but you're hoping to pivot. The professional summary and the profile section at the top helps to tell your story and translate what they're about to see into their language. So these are some things that you can think about for your professional summary and what to put if you decide you'd like to use it. And first and foremost, you will get a copy of this PowerPoint. You don't have to copy this word for word, and we'll also share a recording in case you are like frantically trying to write everything. But these are questions that you can answer in your professional summary. And
Gloria, I have a question with regards to that. So with regards to the three sort of areas of the written portions of this, how would you differentiate your professional summary with, for example, what goes in the cover letter?
Well, the professional summary, again, I think your cover letter, it's if you wanted to write more about a specific, you wanted to like dig into one of your roles and then explain, right? So again, the professional summary isn't, again, a lot of space either. So, this might be a couple sentences about maybe why, what are your strengths? What are your qualifications? I'll actually show you that. So my next slide will illuminate it a little bit. So this is what maybe could go on like a profile at the top, right? So if you're like really wanting to show that you're a really great candidate for an event planning position, but potentially your work experience is more administrative, or a lot of your volunteer experience is a little bit more, community service based, you would bring all of this information to the top of your resume to then be able to translate whatever is coming down at the bottom. But then the cover letter would maybe pick one or two of these, and then you would elaborate on it. Does that make sense? So you want to like paint more of a picture in your cover letter that you cannot achieve in your resume because you're trying to do a little bit more just kind of bullets. And also, this is if you decide for a profile that you want to, again, tell a little bit of the story, but remember, this doesn't like show like, oh, this doesn't personalize it, right? But then it is putting everything in like a very organized, nice place at the top as they read the bottom. But again, I think though, you don't need any of this if you're thinking, oh, I kind of want to fill out my resume a little bit more, right? And so just wanting to put it out there that you don't have to be like, oh, I have to fill this out. I have to have a profile or professional summary. It's helpful if, again, you are making a switch, you're making a pivot. But if, let's say, you're applying, you have an engineering degree and you're applying for an engineering job, your work experience and everything below will tell that story. Okay, so when you're looking at your resume, you have your different areas, your different kind of headers, section headers. But remember, you can tailor those section headers to reflect the information that you want to share. So for some of our new grads, you may not have a lot of work experience, but maybe you have a lot of leadership experience. So you can make sure that you don't have to, like, you can put work experience at the top. And when we say work experience, this is maybe stuff that you were compensated for. So you have that work experience. This is maybe something more administrative, but then maybe you want to add leadership and service, at the bottom, because these were things that you were so involved with. And then, so these are some ideas for your section headers: professional experience, relevant experience, leadership and involvement, leadership and service, projects and additional skills. Be sure to listen in reverse chronological order. I would say if you are graduated from a university, you can, like, if let's say you graduated 1 year out, you could probably go until your junior year. I wouldn't go too far, like, into your freshman year, unless you had really something that was really significant and you're ready to talk about it. Because again, they're going to ask you, how is this related to your job? And if it's just that you were doing a job, you were working the security somewhere and it's not really related, you don't have to put that. Again, you want to make sure everything on your resume is a good story and reflection of what you'll bring to this position. And again, we want you to think about, with your experience, in this resume, what did you do and why is it important? Okay, so all positions, all work experience is important. You learn work ethic, you learn about being on time, showing up, caring about other people. And so don't ever undersell these positions. However, if again, you have a lot of these different experiences, try to limit it to maybe as far back as junior year, if you're a new grad, and if you have been graduated for a while, maybe like the last 2 roles that are relevant to the role. So does anyone have any questions about resumes?
Do you have a recommended number of bullet points?
I would say, again, making sure that you're being judicious about the space. I would say at least a minimum of 3, and then a maximum. Again, if you have a lot of great information, 10 is like, that's a really solid block of great work experience. But again, don't just like have a lot. And then again, try to always keep it to 1 line if you can. Does that make sense? Like, if it can fill the whole page, 1 line. And so some last resume tips. Try not to put any personal details or photos. I know sometimes people think like, oh, a photo is cool, but it again takes up space, and sometimes it doesn't necessarily translate on a resume the way that you think. We'll talk about other ways that they may see your face, so you don't need to worry about it. Try not to use a template. I know sometimes people are like, oh, I'm just going to go on Microsoft Word and just use the template, like type in resume. But sometimes what I have found and what my colleagues have found is templates actually lock you out of using all of your space. And so, try not to use a template if it will limit like your usage of every single space that you have to your ability. And also, you don't need to include references available upon request. To be honest, that is assumed. And if you don't want to offer references, that actually will red flag things. So we can always talk about offline if you're like, oh, I really want to, I don't feel comfortable with my direct supervisor or blah, blah, blah. Like, we can talk about those specifics, but you don't need to worry about putting references available upon request. Stay consistent in your formatting. Don't try to change it up with all sorts of fonts. Remember, just have it be clean. Make sure it passes the eye test of that 7 seconds, right? 1 page, and then proofread, edit, and double check. You will have an opportunity during this Launchpad for someone else to see your resume, but getting the most eyes on it is helpful. Even if it's your roommate, your parents, your auntie, like, just get someone to look at it, because they will see things that you don't see. And so definitely think about that.
Gloria, we had 2 questions in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is, would you recommend putting your GPA next to your education if it's only over 3.0?
Well, first and foremost, getting a 3.0 is wonderful. So please don't ever, consider what I'm saying as like a negative, but I think it depends on your industry. So if you are, let's say, like, you're in business and you're applying, like, maybe you're applying to like a consulting or competitive tech or investment banking, they tend to like GPAs. But from what I heard, it's only more, it's only helpful if it's 3.5 or more, because in a way they assume that your grades should be good, right? So, you know, and also you may not need to like say that it was 3.0 or more. However, if you are particularly proud of something, you know, putting like a relevant coursework, maybe a project that you did or a capstone project that you did or a thesis that you wrote, you can put that. I know for some of our master's students, maybe if you pass your comprehensives and you get like a pass with honors, you know, graduated with honors, that's also something great to put. But I think a 3.0, again, though is amazing and wonderful, you should be proud. I don't think you need to put it. I would rather pull out something that you're maybe really proud of, like a specific class that you did great on. Because again, anything on your resume is fair game for them to ask you. So you want to set them up to ask you these questions that are really exciting and can make you feel proud, right? And what would you say about having different resume template styling if you are a designer? Well, if you are a designer, you know, I think it's all anything that is more artistic related is more forgiving. However, you have to realize too, like if again, sometimes recruiters or HR person is the one that is viewing your resume first and not the designer or the artistic director. So you want to also make sure that your information is clear, that it is easily findable. If the design is different and is, you know, we often don't recommend colors because if they have to print it out, it might be too light and then they can't read it. So again, if you're going to have it be different in terms of styling, just making sure that at least if it's going to be a black and white print, that it will be okay and that information is easily findable. Okay. And so let's talk about your cover letter. Again, like I said before, it's the trailer. It gives you more information. It tells the story behind all the things that they've seen on your resume. And so when it comes to a cover letter, things that you want to think about, again, one page, single-sided. I think 3 to 4 paragraphs is appropriate in length. Again, I know some people think like, oh, I'm going to share everything and they're going to read every word. Most likely people are really reading it very quickly. So you really want to capture them and, you know, again, touch on some of, you know, in the 3 to 4 paragraphs, touch on 1 to 2 really important like related skills and experiences. Because again, remember, the first paragraph is an opening and expressing your interest and saying you're really interested and how you found it. Maybe if you have a connection to the job in someone in the company, you can share like, oh, I was connected by so-and-so that shared this position with me. Because who knows, they'll be like, oh, that's cool. I know that person, I like them. So first paragraph is intro, the last one is the thank you, my information is this. So you're really looking at 1 to 2 paragraphs that really will tell your story, okay?
Sorry, you muted yourself.
That's okay. Minimize the color. Again, just because if they print it out, and it's like, again, they print out these things very fast and they dole it out, if they print, and if they don't, you just want to make sure everything is like good so that people can see things. Your cover letters are going to be your tools to affirm all the great things that you shared on your resume. So if let's say you have a really cool experience that at your last job, you can say, as seen on my resume, I oversaw a team, or I oversaw a team of students that, we did this and this and this. One of my favorite experiences was this time that we went out to the community and we achieved this, and I felt a great sense of pride, right? So like, again, you're bringing yourself into it and how you felt, because a resume doesn't do that. It doesn't tell the reader all the hard work that probably went into it and how you felt, and then how you move forward from there. But also remember to be concise. You don't have to cover everything. Again, you just want to highlight enough for them to be like, ooh, we want to learn more. And so I think that's the thing with all of these tools, is that it's not your like personal, let me tell you everything and like, I'm going to convince you here. See it as like a pitch. Here is like what I'll bring to the table. I had these experiences and now I want to be a part of yours, and this is what I could bring to you. So think about it that way as well. It's not your like Hail Mary, I'm just going to give you everything so that maybe you'll like me. No. You will bring a lot to the table, but you have to also have that restraint in your cover letter, because they'll see it and be like, oh my gosh, it's too long. I'm not going to read this. So again, through this whole process, taking away points where people can say no. So, oh, it doesn't pass the eye test. This looks bad. No. Oh, there's a error. There's a spelling mistake. No. Like they have so many to get through that one thing that will like catch them, they'll be like, oh, I guess, we'll move on. So, but I know that if you have more eyes on it, read it aloud, like have these go through the different processes that we'll go through in the Launchpad, but then also with your colleagues, your friends, your family to help you read, it should be okay. So don't overthink it either. It'll be okay. So what do you think about discussing one event job in depth in your cover letter versus discussing two that are equally relevant? I would say if you think that one event can really touch on, a couple things, like you can stay in that story, but I wouldn't necessarily stay too long in just maybe one lesson learned or one skill that you use or one development, right? If you still again want to share, like you're not a one-dimensional employee, that you learned, how to manage people, or then, oh, you also made connections that, helped you get more excited about the industry. You do want to share a couple things, because then again, they may like you, but they're like, oh, but I don't know enough, right? So just give them something else to nibble on, like, oh, this is great. And also make sure your header matches your resume font. It's always nice to have things a little bit more consistent. In your salutation, I know this is very silly, but it's okay to put like dear hiring manager or selection committee, right? Because maybe more than one person might be reading your cover letter and resume. Sometimes it gets a little tricky, like putting in an exact name. Maybe you have a connection and you do know exactly who's going to read it. But the thing is, it could be really awkward if that person ends up not being the one reading it and they're like, oh, who's this person, right? So you just want to make sure that it's as clean and easy as possible. And again, like I said, pick 2 to 3 points in your job. Oh, and also with the cover letter, pick 2 to 3 points in the job description. So this is the job that you're applying for, and connecting your resume, in like your personal information, to that. So let's say you're applying for a administrative assistant job. I know that this position requires, a lot of dexterity when working with different, platforms and, different scheduling tools. And I have done that here. And so like connecting your job, this job that you want, to the skills that you have will help, again, kind of wrap it nicely in a bow, make those connections for the people that are reading this. And again, your sign off can be easy. Sincerely, best regards will work fine. Again, no one's going to be like, oh, again, you don't need to have it be too creative, because again, they're like, oh, that's interesting, right? So again, just you want to keep it pushing, move through the process, and so create that opportunity for yourself. Any questions about cover letters? Cool. Okay, so then now I'm going to talk about some online tools for your job search. So again, doing your resume cover letter actually is nice, because then it gives you words that you're going to be using for the different websites that you'll use, right? If you're in design and all that stuff, getting it kind of wrapped up in your resume will help, because then you have all these different platforms that you could use to show off your portfolios and all that stuff. And then of course you can always link these platforms. So I'll show you. So JobScan is actually a great online tool. This is something where you can actually upload your resume, and then you can see if it's tailored to the job descriptions that you are applying for. So like you'll like copy and paste the job description on one side, and then you'll upload your resume and cover letter on the other side, and then they'll show you if it matches. So, or if there's overlap. And the more that you can overlap those two things, those two tools with the job description, the better. Obviously, it's not going to do like, oh, this is exactly what you should say, but it will show you like, oh, these are great overlaps, or oh, maybe you can add a little bit more. So jobscan.co is a great site. If you are a current student or you have graduated, within the last year, you actually are eligible to use VMOC, which is provided by the Career Center. This is actually great, because what it'll do, you upload your resume, and then they will actually compare you to a bunch of different resumes that it has in its database and what employers are looking for, and give you a dashboard score. So maybe they'll like say, oh, add a little bit more experience here, Can you, add a little bit more in your education? So it's actually a really great interactive tool if you are interested. And so let's talk about LinkedIn. Obviously, many people know what LinkedIn is. Oh, thank you, Joan. You have another tool here. So with LinkedIn, you all know that it is very popular, the largest professional network with 706 million users in more than 200 countries. It's a professional networking platform, but it also serves as a top job board and also a research site for people interested in for industry. And it's also, again, not just another social media site. People often are looking at this to really learn about candidates before. And so definitely it's something you want to consider. So what do you currently use LinkedIn for? If you could throw in the chat, you can be honest, you can say, I don't use LinkedIn, or you can say, I use it for as a student, or I do use it. Do you look on the jobs board? Do you read articles? Paulina writes network and job search. Nice. Janet doesn't use LinkedIn. That's okay. Use it for job searching. Jennifer says she doesn't know how to use it. Use it as an online resume. That's what people do, is use it as an online resume. Awesome. Diane uses it for sharing, documenting industry related news. Totally hear you, Kamani, just to create one. Yep. Job search, research, networking sometimes. Exactly. So all these different things people use LinkedIn for. What I'm going to talk about is thinking about your presence and then also maximizing that presence on LinkedIn. So again, just some stats. So these are just some stats. I won't read them all to you. But again, good to keep in mind, 80% of positions are filled through a referral. I think that's something pretty powerful. I think sometimes people think like, oh, let me just get all the resumes out. Let me just apply for as many as possible. But think about 80% of the positions that are filled are through someone people knew. So someone connected them to their position. And also 91% of recent graduates networked during their job. So some people think like, oh, it's just the resume and cover letter, and it definitely is more than that. So these are just some stats for you to think about. So fun LinkedIn trivia. You are blank times more likely to be viewed if you have a professional photo. What do you think it could be? How many times more to be viewed if you have a professional photo? 5 times. Diane says 5. Daniel says 3. BB says 3. Yeah, 5 and 3s. Kendra says 10. Any more guesses? Maxime says 15. Okay, the answer is 14. So Maxime was actually the closest. 14 times more likely to be viewed if you have a photo. So, you definitely want to make sure that you have a photo that you can use. And oftentimes we think about and also I'll show you, make sure your photo can actually be viewed. But oftentimes, to be quite honest, people just want to make sure you're a real living person, right? They just want to make sure, is this person alive? Are they active? So having a photo, it does make you more approachable. It makes you more of an interesting living candidate for recruiters who are, again, moving you through the process. Some other stats: 1 of 3 hiring managers are interested in seeing hobbies and extracurricular interests. 56% of hiring managers report candidates do not describe their job roles with enough depth and detail on LinkedIn. And then also, if you add in your school and you add in some skills, it makes your profile even that much more viewable. So again, I think that really thinking about your LinkedIn, and I will be very honest, even though I'm in this world all the time, doing my LinkedIn too, it can feel like, oh, wow, it's a little bit overwhelming. So sometimes just sitting with it, checking out other LinkedIn profiles that you really like you can get inspiration for how you want to move forward with your LinkedIn. So the first 3 things recruiters notice is your name, your picture, and your headline. So your headline is, what comes, usually in the search, and then also what it comes right under your photo. For those that have a job, it will default to your current position or job. But if you want to mix it up a little bit, you can, let's say you want to pivot, right? You can kind of write a quick sentence or 2 about why you're pivoting, or the bringing together of your current industry and what you want your industry to be. So some things to think about. So here are some examples. These are people that you may recognize because they're part of our group. But these are, people who are currently, this is their, photo, their name, their title. And again, for those that, so Eric, he kind of mixed it up with his current title and then also his role as the Westside Alumni Network, right? So think about that too. If maybe there's something that you're really excited about in your volunteer world, you can also add that to kind of mix it up and make it doesn't have to always just be your professional experience. Again, if for some more trivia, you are blank times more likely to be viewed if you have more than one position listed. What do you think? So one position doesn't have to be a full-time position. It could be volunteer positions. How many times are you more likely to be viewed if you have more than one position? Any guesses? 8, 10, 7. Daniel says 10. Diane says 7. We got a lot of 10s. Okay, the answer is 12 times. So again, doesn't mean it has to be just one. If you only have had one job, that is okay. But adding in volunteer experience, adding in other things that you've been excited about, that you've been part of, other roles, having more of that, again, builds out your profile a little bit. So I will share all of these things with you later, so I won't read everything. But again, think about your summary. And if you did do a professional summary for your resume, you can easily utilize that in this summary. Okay. So again, if you did all that work for the resume, don't redo the work. Utilize that as your starting point and then whittle it down. So again, you can talk about what motivates you, your work experience, what's next, what you're excited about. And also highlight any work, highlight your personality. This is the place to put your personality. And in your experiences, the one thing though, don't take your resume, copy and paste it, and then put in your experiences. Don't do that. So just kind of write a little like synopsis, like paragraph in each of your roles, because again, this is not your resume. You could potentially look at this as, let me fill in the blanks of my resume job here. So let's say you had 2 supervisors. There's probably not a place that you could have written that in your resume, but you could write here, oh, supported 2 different people, director roles, and help to manage blank, 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 right? So you could add some of that stuff there if you wanted to. And so some tips, I will show you how to do this, but be sure to put in your LinkedIn URL. Creating that makes it personalized so that you're not linkedin.com/P7T54. Like it could just be linkedin.com Gloria Co, right? And so it helps to make it easier, and then you could utilize it in all your different tools. And also I'll show you in a little bit the alumni tool for LinkedIn. That's really important to be able to network and then also find alumni. And then also be sure to join the LinkedIn UCLA alumni group. That's really helpful, especially if you're just searching, because some people will throw in postings and jobs that are opening up in their companies. And then also I will show you how to do the job search and then how to set some search alerts. So we'll do that. And then I actually will show you UCLA ONE, which is our UCLA's professional networking tool. But the UCLA ONE is best, I think, for warm asks. So in LinkedIn, you're kind of one of many people that are potentially trying to connect with our alumni. At UCLA ONE, these are people that have potentially recently said that they're willing to help. So you can ask for informational interviews, you can ask for a mock interview practice. You can even, ask like, oh, would you be willing to look at my resume? So this is really helpful if you are, interested in, like really, if you're really ready to like connect with someone. LinkedIn is great to like kind of look around, but see if someone is here. And also these people are more willing to say yes, because in a way they've already noted what they want to do. So they'll say yes a little bit more easily. And also some other tools that I had seen, I saw especially for some of our design and artistic focused, careers, there's a new platform called Creatively that is new to help. It's like a LinkedIn, but for designers and artistic creative folks, because you can post your work. So I just wanted to share that if you're interested. And also FlexJobs. So FlexJobs is the #1 job site for remote work. So especially for some of you who may be curious or want to take on remote positions, this is something too that you could look into. and that you could utilize as well. Okay. And also, I want to plug our Bruin Success podcast. Oftentimes, this is a great starter that if there is a person in a company that you're interested in, listen to their podcast, reach out to them. Oh, I heard you on the podcast. It was so nice to hear your story. Would you be willing for me to ask you a couple questions? I am not doing this as a plug for our podcast, but I'm also using it. I've had alumni reach out to me saying, oh, I'm so happy they heard the podcast. And they're so much more willing to connect with these students and alumni because they felt like, oh, this is so cool that they were able to hear my story. So again, utilize this as a jump off point. If you're interested in getting into Disney, I would recommend listening to our episode with Todd Sargent because he works at Disney, reaching out to him. Oh, I heard you on the podcast, wanted to reach out. It's a perfect in. And they get really excited because they did it and they're probably nervous that no one has heard it. So you definitely want to be sure to utilize it if you're interested in specific companies. And so I wanted to put it out there that before I do the demos, I wanted to put out there some homework for all of you. First is your resume, and this actually will tie into your mock interview that we'll be doing on the 17th. If you please submit your resume to me by Friday at the 12th at noon, because what I'll do is I'll make sure that your interviewer gets your resume and they will review it. So if you don't, then then they may not be able to critique it and give you that feedback, but it gets you another set of eyes on your resume. And then also I'm going to show you how to, but I want to encourage you to send 3 messages on UCLA ONE for an informational interview, mock interview, or resume critique. Again, starting to get used to asking for help, but you don't have to, again, put it all out there, but you can just ask for help. And then also find 5 alumni on LinkedIn and connect with them online. So I'm going to do the demos of the sites, but I wanted to put this homework out there so that you can keep it in mind as you look at the demos. Okay. So yes, Lauren.
I just want to chime in to say when you are connecting with people on LinkedIn, it does help to write a quick message of why you want to connect with them. Like, you're connecting with Gloria, thanks for your great presentation. Look forward to connecting. Just so some people don't accept people that they don't know. And this just, even if you don't know them personally, you can mention that and just say, yeah, interested in the work that you're doing. Likely that they'll connect with you.
Mm-hmm. And if you wanted to, you could connect with them on UCLA ONE. Well, in UCLA ONE, you're already connected. Everyone is connected there. But if you wanted to connect with them on LinkedIn too, you could say, oh, I saw you on UCLA ONE. I'm a Bruin too. Wanted to connect with you here, right? So again, you're just making it easier for them to say yes. And so, as you navigate, finding a job, if you're looking for your next role now, it ultimately comes down to utilizing these tools to tell your story, making sure all the things that you have prepared look the best that they can so that people can easily say yes. And even if, let's say, you met someone, they really like you, and your resume doesn't look good, like they can, unless they have the job, they still have to push you through their process. So making sure your resume, your tools, your LinkedIn look strong, it really will help to make it so that it's a smooth process for everybody involved. Okay, so now I am going to, let's see, sorry. So I'm gonna pull up LinkedIn. We're going to take a look there. So many of you you'll know how to log in to LinkedIn, but creating a profile there should be pretty easy. If you need help with the signing in, let me know. But when you're on your main page, where you would want to go is under your profile, go to view profile. Okay. And so the first thing we said was to change your URL. So you just go right here to edit public profile and URL, and you can edit your custom URL here. Go to the pencil, and then you can write in your preferred URL. The reason why mine is Gloria-Co is Gloria-Co was taken. So the sooner you can get yours, the better, right? And be sure to save. And then also think about your public profile and edit the contents. So the reason why I say this is oftentimes you think people are seeing you if they're not signed into LinkedIn, but like it kind of helps you see what is available and also what people see. So this is what I'm talking about, edit visibility. And then you look, your basic information, the public can see it, and then what they can see here. Okay. So be sure to click on those things so that, again, if someone is just, I think, how many of you have Googled someone, right? Most likely you have Googled someone and then their LinkedIn came up. And so you're able to see that. But think about, your recruiter will probably Google you and then they'll want to see your LinkedIn. And so then you want them to be able to find you. Okay. And again, you can always change this after you've gotten the job. Maybe you're like, oh, I'm good after you've gotten the job. You're ready to kind of make it a little bit more private. That's fine. And so then I wanted to show you the alumni tool. So be sure to click on University of California, Los Angeles, but be sure to look for the one that says school and not company. So, so sometimes they'll say company, look for the one that says school. And so once it's at school, on the left over here, you click on alumni. And so then here you can search for alumni by where they live, where they work, and also you can do show more, and also you can toggle like there's more next, that like what they've studied and how you can connect with them. Okay, so those are ways that if, let's say, you want to connect with someone on your major, like what they ended up doing, or the most common is often where they worked. So let's say you really want to find someone that has worked at Google. It will find everyone that has graduated from UCLA and that now works for Google, or potentially has Google in their profile. Okay, so it's not necessarily just where they work. Most it will be, but for some of them, maybe they have Google in their profile somewhere. Okay, and then the next is the jobs section. You can do as many searches as you want, but to save job alerts, you can only have 10. But let's say I am looking for a marketing coordinator role. Sorry, my typing is on display. And I'm trying to look for somewhere in the Los Angeles area. And so here are all the different jobs that are on UCLA, are on LinkedIn. You could look around, let's say, oh, this looks interesting. You could actually see your connections, and then also 8 company alumni. So people that worked with you, worked where you worked, and that now work there. Okay, so and then you could apply, and you can even save the job if you wanted to return to it, and it will send you notifications to apply for it if you do. Let's say you wanted to add, maybe I want to see if something is remote, show me my results. These are the roles that fit. Marketing coordinator, company is in the Los Angeles metropolitan, but it potentially has the ability to be remote, right? So you have remote, and you can apply here as well. If you would like to create a job alert, just click this, and then they will show you. You can receive the alert daily. Maybe if that's a little overwhelming, you could just do weekly, and then you would notify through email or your notifications if you have the application. Would you suggest going directly to the company website to apply directly instead of LinkedIn? I would say take a look at where you go, because sometimes you could apply. And so then I think what it will do is it might send you to their job board, their job application site. So most likely they won't have like parallel processes. This link will probably just take you to their job site. So I don't think it matters as much. You should be okay. So there. Any questions about the job alerts or finding anything on LinkedIn? Again, also remember that people do see your activity unless you kind of correct that, like not having people see your activity. But if you like something, if you congratulate someone, remember that it does show on your profile. So do be mindful of that. So Diane, you said it, you just came up with the University of California, Los Angeles. Don't type in school. Just type in University of California, Los Angeles, and then look for the marker of school. Sometimes it does that. And then when you say direct URL, what do you mean? Do you mean like how to find it? So go to your view profile, go to edit public profile and URL here. Does that make sense? Okay. Oh, the page. Yes, let me find that for you. So, okay. And then, so the next thing I'm going to demo is UCLA ONE. Let me actually find this, and I will throw this in the chat during the networking portion so that I want to be mindful of time. Okay, but I will throw in the I'll throw in the direct URL for that for all of you. So for UCLA ONE, this is the site for UCLA ONE. I will, for the registration process, if you don't currently have a registration, if you don't currently have a profile, you have to just put in your name, your email, and your grad year and your major. And then what it will do, if you are in our system with that same name and email, we will be able to approve you pretty much automatically. However, if let's say your name is different, maybe if you have I have a Chinese name, but if I maybe registered with my Chinese name, but then I use Gloria Co, then it will not necessarily compute because UCLA has me as the Chinese name. Does that make sense? So if you want to make sure that whatever you registered into UCLA, that is the name you put, because you can always change it afterwards. Does that make sense? Because if we don't find you in our database, you have to be manually approved, which takes about 24 to 48 hours. When you come to UCLA ONE, some of the best things to do, again, is really utilizing the warm ask. We do have a job board where alumni post some of their positions, and also we take a feed from the UCLA Handshake for full-time positions. And this also comes into play if you see a position you like here on UCLA ONE and it makes you go into Handshake. Don't need to go into Handshake. Do exactly what Dahlia said. Go to the company page, because then that will directly take you there. Because the Handshake site will just direct you to the company page. If you're looking for alumni, the best thing to do is start at the directory. And let's say you are interested in doing an informational interview. Click on Get Involved. Click on Offer to Help, and then scroll down to Available for Informational Interviews. That will then filter everyone here that is willing to do informational interviews. Let's say you are interested in a specific company. Let's say you're interested in a specific company, and then let me type in Disney. You can select Disney, and then it will come up. It'll take a little bit of time to filter it out, but you will then be someone will show up. They're available. They work at Disney for informational interview. You click on there. And then instead of just a message, you can actually request help here. So click on Request Help, choose the help type. And instead of having to fill something all the way out, we actually have some templates here. So hello, I'm interested in pursuing a career in your field. Would you be available to chat to give me some insights into your career educational journey? You can just throw your name in there and send, or you can just you can personalize it a little bit, which will be more helpful, and it won't be as just very plain. But utilizing this will help to, again, it gives you a place to start, and then sending the invitation and then it will request the help for you. Okay, and then they should respond to you directly at UCLA ONE. When you are in UCLA ONE, be sure to edit your profile here. And you can also add a bit more information about yourself, adding the summary. Again, you worked on that summary, right? On your LinkedIn and in your resume, you can throw that summary in here. And then you can ask, let's say you're really interested and you want to find someone to do a mock interview, click on seek, you're seeking help to do that, right? So you can do that. Add in your educational information should be in there from your registration. But if, let's say, you got any education in different institutions, like a community college or whatnot, you can do that. And you can add your experiences. And actually, if you sign in, you can actually use your LinkedIn account. So fill out your LinkedIn account, register here through your LinkedIn add-on, and then that way you don't have to fill out all this information. But you can add in some of the personalized things if you like. And again, if you are interested in jobs, you can click on the job board here, and then you can look here for some of the jobs that are available. You can also search by type, employment type. We do have full-time, part-time, internship, and then also remote. Again, if that's something you're interested in, that's definitely most jobs, even if they don't list remote, unless like some of them may start you off remote. So if the job is not necessarily like on site, they may start you remote. So just do keep that in mind. So you know, that's something that you could ask in the interview process. Again, also consider joining a group. There's lots of different groups that are available. And so these are just some that I'm in, but then there's also different networks and different, whether they're regional departments, things like that that are available. Okay, so does anyone have any questions? Sorry, I want to make sure we're mindful of time of some of the things that I've shown you today. Again, the job search online, to be quite honest, if you're interested in doing informational interviews, now is the time because people are home. It will be probably a Zoom meeting anyway. You don't necessarily have to go meet them for coffee and do the awkward dance of do I buy you coffee? Do I not buy you coffee? Right? Like it's all online. You do the Zoom meeting and then you can thank them with an email after. That's usually a typical informational interview. And I promise you, the worst thing that can happen is that they say, no, sorry, I'm busy. And then you move on, right? So don't be afraid to make that connection. Doing it online, you have tons of, you can reach out to people and then also utilize, in the job search starter kit I shared, we have some correspondence templates. So feel free to utilize that because then you don't have to start from scratch. But share a little bit about who you are, what you're hoping to achieve, and then asking them for their time. Again, it's always just making the ask. If they say no, then you say, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to even respond to me. And then who knows, maybe later they may be available. So it's never a no forever, but maybe it's a no right now. And so definitely thinking about the job search, reaching out to people you're interested in connecting with, and then making sure your tools and everything are ready to go. So does anyone have any questions that again, we can elaborate on, or I can send follow-up resources as well and be mindful of everyone's time. Any questions, or even maybe what are some of the things you're most nervous about job searching during this time? I promise you, you all are equipped. You all have gotten to this place. You have succeeded in getting into UCLA, so you will succeed at other things as well. And so you have a history of success, and so know that you will succeed again. And so a lot of times we just need to remember that in ourselves, that we've gotten to where we are and took a lot of hard work. And it's just a little bit more hard work to get you to the next place. And so don't worry, you have everything you need. You are enough. And so we just need to help you get your tools ready so that you can tell your story. So any other questions before I turn it over to Eric for some networking? And also, if you need to go, you're welcome to go. But we'll do a little bit of networking until 7:15. Cool. Okay. Great. Well, again, you can reach out to me. You probably still get my emails. If you want to connect, feel free to connect. We're here to support you. So I'll turn it over to Eric.
Awesome. Thanks, Gloria. I just, again, want to remind everyone, this is an optional networking portion. We won't feel bad if you have to go. We understand everyone has a busy schedule. So please, if you have to hop off, please feel free to do so. But for those of you who have 15 minutes or so here with us, again, we'd just like to offer this up as an open networking session. It's always interesting speaking in front of a group via Zoom, so it's nice to get some practice. So I did just want to open up the conversation to ask you, again, to say your name and what you hope to get out of this Launchpad, if you're potentially looking to switch into a different industry or just looking to explore other options. Just trying to get a feel of what's out there. My name's Eric, as you know, and I work in the field of development. I really enjoy coming to these types of presentations just because I feel like I always learn something from LinkedIn that I could apply. So I've definitely gone to a lot of these presentations with Gloria and Katie. But again, I work in development and fundraising. But if anyone wants to go next, just share again your name and what industry you're looking to go into or what what you're hoping to get out of this Launchpad.
Hi, y'all. I'm Karina. I'm currently working at UCLA Residential Life. However, interested in switching gears, kind of leaving student affairs behind. So I'm hoping to, one, gain momentum from this Launchpad to like help me stay accountable with preparing for job search and sending out those applications. And yeah, and this networking, yeah, it's unusual being on the screen. So good practice.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. That's a good point. I think the hardest part is just getting started. So you're all here. I also want to reiterate the name UCLA really does carry, it's a very big name and it carries you very far. So don't be afraid to use it in your resume, your LinkedIn, all of that good stuff. And you just reminded me also, please feel free to drop your LinkedIn in the chat. Lauren afterwards will go ahead and send it out to everyone so we could all connect. But please feel free to drop in your LinkedIn. And if anyone else wants to go next.
I can go next. This is Maxim. I've actually graduated from UCLA 2 years ago, and I've been working for about 1.5 years in the energy efficiency field. And what I'm trying to get out of this is, like it's always good, like one, to connect with other UCLA alumni, and also it's always great to learn new, tips and tricks about LinkedIn and other networking tools. So yeah, happy to be here.
Awesome, thank you. My former supervisor was also a UCLA alum, so that was one of the things that she mentioned to me when she hired me. Anyone else want to go next?
I can go. Hi everyone, I'm Joanna. I'm currently working doing ABA therapy with children with autism. I kind of started this job hoping to get into more of a psych field because I was working at a chem lab before. And this has been a part-time job, so I'm just trying to find some full-time job that can kind of push me forward.
Awesome, thank you.
I could go next. Hi everyone, my name is Diane. I studied in design, but I actually stumbled upon working in marketing. So I decided to transition back to design. So that's where my career journey lies. It's so nice to meet you all, like-minded people here.
Awesome, thank you for sharing.
I can go next. I'm Janet Mendez. I currently work in workforce development at a community college, and my director actually graduated from UCLA, so I don't know, partly that's why she hired me. And I'm looking maybe to transition to a more of like a student services position. So I've been in my current position for about 8 years. So, I need to learn new skills and how to search, for a new job in this current market. So far, everything's been super helpful. So thank you.
Oh, thanks for sharing. That's great to hear. My favorite slogan is always Bruins, helping Bruins, because I feel like we always somehow connect with each other.
Hi, everyone. Oh, sorry. Hi, I'm Bibi. I'm currently interning at a nonprofit focused on sustainability and environmentalism. I'm kind of interested in shifting into business operations and international business. So I'm hoping to kind of get some more experience in job search and networking.
Awesome, thank you for sharing. That reminds me, UCLA Extension is also offering free management courses. They're 1-hour Zoom sessions, and that's been pretty helpful over the last couple of weeks. They have some on empathetic leadership, giving and receiving feedback, and a couple of other helpful things. But if you Google UCLA free extension courses, it'll pop up. Thanks, Bibi. Joan, I think, did you unmute yourself?
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to like multitask and cook at the same time, but I'm Yonya. I am a project coordinator at a VR startup doing education. And I'm mostly trying to also like kick myself into gear to prep to start looking for new jobs in about 6 months or so, because hearing that 80% referral number makes me really nervous. And so I really want to learn how to make those connections and like maintain them. So next time I apply, I can like be in that referral zone.
Yeah, those are pretty impressive statistics. Thanks for sharing, Gloria, and thanks for sharing, Yanya.
I can go next, or I think I may be one of the last ones. My name's Jenny. Currently, I'm a resiliency fellow at an AmeriCorps program called Civic Spark. So I'm working with film permitting, just building, communication, and I have a huge background in public health. I worked in a nonprofit since high school. So what I want to do now is just kind of know how to use that experience in my professional life, and I'm trying to network as much as possible with, my Bruin. So.
That's awesome. I'm also a fellow AmeriCorps alum. I worked for Jumpstart. And so I think they had a pretty good template of how to apply or how to list your experience on your resume. I'll try to find it. Awesome, thanks for sharing. Anyone else?
I can go. Hi, I'm Kendra. I really want to get out of this just to see really what's out there. All the resources that you guys listed was really helpful. I graduated with an English degree, so it's really, I've always been told that I have really transferable skills to a lot of different things, but it's like I have too many options, and then I also don't know what's out there. So I'm still learning all the positions that I could possibly translate to, but I just always feel like there's something new and it's kind of exhausting, but I'm happy that there's like a community and resources available. So.
Awesome, thank you for sharing. Let's see. Esmeralda, do you want to go next?
Sorry, the mute button is getting stuck. Hi everyone, I'm Esmeralda again. I am from Westside. I graduated in 2018 and I now currently work at UCLA still in development and fundraising. I'm just thankful for this Launchpad in the sense that I had, when I first graduated, a lot of my friends really would have had use of this. So I'm really just impressed with all of you, especially the recent grads, for taking advantage of this opportunity. It's really gonna be a big help, and I'm taking notes myself. So I think Laura is just such a fountain of wisdom. So thank you for your presentation today.
Well, and also all of this I've learned as well. So, I think it's always about paying it forward. And so as you're learning it, share with your friends or people who may want it, because ultimately, like, again, you've all gotten into UCLA, you've done it. And for those that didn't, you got to where you are, right? And so know that you will get to that next step too. And so a lot of it is just finding the, connections, and also know that you might even have friends that have connections that you don't even know about. So don't think of it as just meeting people you don't know. It could be like resurfacing people you knew or and like digging in a little bit. So sometimes meeting strangers feels scary, but maybe it's just re-meeting people you already met before. So
thank you for that, Gloria. Kamini, sorry if I mispronounced your name. I'm not sure if you went already. No, I could always circle back. So if anyone has any questions, just again with the presentation today, I have reviewed a couple of cover letters and resumes just in my role in hiring someone for my team. And so a lot of what Gloria said really resonates. Please make sure to save it as a PDF. I've gotten a lot of Word documents that when I open them, they turn funky and the fonts are off or the lining isn't aligned. And so it just reflects poorly. So PDFs is the way to go. Another thing that Gloria shared and touched upon was just using some of the keywords in the description. Me and my coworker who kind of screen through the resumes will go ahead and underline or highlight things that we put out there that they're putting back to us. So that kind of separates you from the other resumes and cover letters that we receive. So definitely try to, again, just use those keywords and try to pull off, those experiences. But that's been super helpful for me.
Also, to go off that, what Eric just said, there's even some companies that have scanners that will compare your resume to the job description. And so if you don't have 50% of what they're looking for, it will go into a different pile. So just definitely something to keep in mind as you're putting those together.
Yeah, they have the keywords right there in front of you. And please try not to have it more than one page. We've had experiences where there's like 5 pages in the cover letter and 7 pages in a resume, and it just gets too much. One page is nice and easy for us to read, but that's just been my experience.
I think with the one page, even though you want to condense it, don't make it like size 7 so it'll all fit. You want to make sure it's still readable on one page. I know I've looked at Canva, some templates, and it's like 7, so when you print it, you can't see it. So just some word of advice is make sure it's still readable on that one page.
And it's also like finding the font that takes up the least amount of space. So like Helvetica and Arial are nice because they're nice and thin. Whereas if you got like those big Garamond or Calibri, like those are really fat fonts. So, you know, even using fonts that are a little bit skinnier helps the cause a little bit.
Awesome. Well, does anyone have any final questions with today's presentation before we wrap up? Any LinkedIn questions, resume, cover letter? There's no dumb questions. I learned too. Yep. All right, well, with that, thank you everyone for joining us in today's session. We look forward to seeing you next